thank everybody for being here tonight. If you'll rise for the invocation by Councilman King.
Please bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, we just thank you for this day, Lord. Just thank you for the opportunity for us to be here tonight, the opportunity to serve our community. Lord, just thank you for all the work that went in to make this meeting possible. Be with us, guide our conversations, and give us the wisdom and knowledge needed to make the right decisions for our community. And at the end of the day, we just give you all the praise and glory and honor that you deserve. We ask all these blessings in your wonderful, glorious name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Okay, as a reminder, we do have an executive session tonight following our regular meeting. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
No, sir, there are not.
Okay, you've all received the minutes from our last meeting. If there are no questions or comments, I'll accept the motion to receive the minutes.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
A motion from Councilman McCoy. Is there a second?
Councilman King, I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have.
As you well know, the success or failure of public comment in Seaford will strongly depend on you, the elected officials, and your serious consideration of serious proposals. Therefore, I make proposals tonight, including proposal number 1. Improve the net metering plans. When net metering was initially established at 5%, the City of Seaford Solar Array and various commercial interests gobbled up more than 90% of this allotment. Private individual homeowners were largely shut out and told to queue up for later consideration. With a net metering increase to 8%, now would seem to be the time to allot a portion of the net metering cap for private and small, 15 kilowatts or less, users. A part of this new legislation also suggested creation of a community energy facility, such as a shared solar array. Rather than small, piecemeal efforts benefiting only a few, please consider a large community energy facility, such as one that might be called the Community Capital Photovoltaic Center on Stein Highway, north of Seaford, West Seaford Elementary. Could we kill 2 needy birds with 1 PV stone? Proposal number 2. We need to increase the municipal voter turnout. The number of registered voters in municipal elections took a dramatic zoom upwards from about 1,500 in 2020 to about 5,000 in 2022. However, only 600 voters showed up in both elections. One significant influence on the low voter turnout in 2022 was holding a municipal election on a significant holiday weekend. Moving our municipal elections to the November state-federal elections date would eliminate any further potential conflict with holidays and should be done. Proposal number 3. We need to stick to the truth. Mutual cooperation is dependent on mutual trust, reinforced by mutual acceptance of truth based on verifiable facts. I'll remind you that at 14:15 on the YouTube video record of the July 26 meeting of Mayor and City Council, Mayor Genshaw stated in part, quote, "The City of Seaford was not accused of doing anything illegal by the Attorney General or the judge in either one of the cases, the right to work or fetal remains," unquote. However, on 6/29/22, after the Chancery Court had ruled against the legality of Seaford's fetal remains ordinance, WMDT News reported that Delaware Attorney General Kathleen Jennings stated in part, quote, "This Chancery Court ruling firmly rejects a clearly illegal and harmful attempt to nullify state law. To make progress together, the truth needs to be based on truth that's based on verifiable facts must prevail." I would ask you to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody else on the list for public comment? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, do we have any correspondence?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay, under new business number 1, I'm going to call up Chief Jack Wilson. Evening, Chief.
Hi. Mayor, Council, City Manager, citizens of Seaford. My name's Jack Wilson. I'm the Fire Chief for Seaford Volunteer Fire Department. I've been the Fire Chief for 5 years. My qualifications, I've been in the fire service for 40 years. I've been a past fire officer in Newcastle County. Prior to that, I was a career firefighter for 27 years. I'm a nationally certified fire officer 3. I have an associate's degree in fire science. There's several of my qualifications that you guys are well aware of as a part of an integrity point. I'd like to introduce my deputy chief, Matthew Reed. Matt, back here, Matt is several years in the fire service. He's also a career firefighter. He's got Fire Officer 2 certifications, national certifications, with several other. He also has an associate degree in something. So, he wanted to be a nurse at one time. So, what I do, I asked in our liaison meeting is that the fire department can have some type of transparency with city council, the mayor, citizens of Seaford, of where the fire department is operationally, where we are heading, and some other goals of what's happening within the fire department itself. The fire department is taking a very cultural, diverse change within our system. As you know, that we are what we consider a combination fire department now, other than a volunteer department, because we do employ 17 career union firefighters, EMTs, which takes a part of our budget, which we'll show you here in a second. Seaford Fire Department's always been proud to serve the citizens of Seaford since 1901, even prior to 1901 when they had the town fire brigade somewhere in the late 1800s, and then when they transitioned to the fire department in 1901. Very proud tradition of citizens of Seaford providing protection to our communities. We're excited about our future. We're encouraging diversity, commitment, and integrity throughout our ranks. We still have a lot of volunteers that are, as they transition into life membership, it's hard for us to bring newer, younger volunteers into the department. We're holding steady on things, but as responses and stuff like that, we will show you here with some of the facts and figures. Our data that we're getting today is pretty easy for us. At January 1st, we transitioned to an emergency reporting system, which allows us to give us right to the minute fire emergency rescue data and personnel stats we can pull it right now on our phone if we had to. We've had it for the last several years with our DEMERS program, state DEMERS program through EMS, so we were able to do that. Making data affordable to you so you understand what's going on in the fire rescue EMS realms of it is important for a lot of things, financial, for trending, for what's going to happen to us in the future. So I hope that some of this stuff will happen. If there's any questions that don't, please let me know or Matt know as we go through, and we can answer what you need. So I guess I have to hit the button, right? So the first one I want to do is to make sure that you're aware of what we have, what Seaford Fire Department offers. We offer, other than the corporate limits of the city of Seaford, we encompass the entire area around us, which is about 77 square miles of fire district. We have urban, suburban, rural, and waterways that we protect. By some calculations off the line, the city of Seaford is about 8,000 people, give or take some, and the district overall is under about 24,000 people estimate that we protect daily. Our neighboring mutual aid companies that we assist are Bridgeville, Blades, Laurel, Georgetown, Fredericksburg, El Dorado, Brookview, Hurlock, and Sharptown. They're our immediate responses that we have coming in to assist us in certain grids. As you see all those numbers on that map, are grid areas that assist us on a daily basis in any response that we have, fire, EMS, or that. Also with our partners with State Police, Seaford Police, and Sussex County Paramedics. We transitioned to Sussex County Emergency Operations Center a couple years ago. That's who dispatches us at this current time. In 2021, we were the busiest fire district in Sussex County. We are the second busiest EMS district in Sussex County. So as we trend, we are still recording record numbers every year since the last 2 or 3 years. And you'll see that in our thing. First thing we're going to do is make sure pretty much you guys understand how we fund ourselves. We do not do traditionally like the old guys, like go out and cook chicken every weekend or have car wash and stuff. It's just not impossible. It's impossible because we don't have the volunteer staffing to do that. Our annual income for 2021 FY was about $2.2 million that we had to satisfy. What we put out the most in agency expenses is EMS, but EMS also encompasses our career staff abilities, which puts about somewhere between $1.1, $1.2 million right now that we put out to make sure that we have staffing in the station for 2 ambulances or fire trucks 24 hours a day to protect the people. And we'll show you more about that in a second. Our biggest chunk out of our fire operations stuff is mostly vehicle maintenance. It's about $130,000 a year that we put out in vehicle maintenance, and then in buying new equipment and make sure we stay up with technology and stuff like that. One thing that I do want to quote here is that you see the city grant says $38,400. That is what we receive as a check that goes into our income. That's not what the city's overall goal is. The city gives us probably about $387,000 a year in money that pays for the fuel, pays for insurance, it pays for a set-aside fund for the ladder and rescue trucks, also set-aside fund for building projects and generator projects. There's like 5 or 6 items in there to do that, so utilities and stuff like that are paid within that we don't see directly that's paid by the city. The only time we receive that is when, like pretty soon, Matt will talk about it in a few minutes about the purchase of the ladder truck coming up, but we see that when we withdraw that money out of those accounts and it goes into our account. So that, so don't say that, hey, the city of Seaford, we get a pretty good deal through our city, and we appreciate that. All right, not that we don't need more to come on that, but sorry. So pretty much with the breakdowns of our EMS. So up to the top left-hand corner, you're going to see is the 10-year totals of our fire department. You can see that 10 years ago, we were making about 525 calls. Right now, I can tell you that our stats just went about 600, and I think we're at 604 calls now last night. So we're well above the first, up to about 2014 levels already, and we're probably going to be somewhere around 1,000 fire rescue calls this year. We broke 941 last year, so we're on that march again. So we're continuing to get busier, which also increases to the reduction of volunteers because of the time commitments, and we'll talk a little bit about it in a second. The response matrix next year is all from 2022. When we started the emergency reporting system January 1, we were able to pull this information out, where you can see the most calls that the fire department responds on, minus the ambulance, well, the fire engine responds, is EMS, motor vehicle crashes, and automatic fire alarms are our top 3. And it moves down to all the other stuff within our fire district what we respond on. Also, you can tell that there was 8 times that we did not respond with a fire truck that was required. That's because of lack of staffing, or both of our ambulances were staffed with the career staff to handle emergency medical callers. Down below, you just see that the response zone breakdown, 8700 grid and the 8708 grid are both City of Seaford grids. They split the city. That's where most of our calls are happening, within the City of Seaford. The other ones that it breaks down with our assistants goes where Station 100 going to the right, and everything within our districts to the left. But you can also see there on the fire response, how we break it down so far for 2022 is that we've had 329 calls so far within the city limits, 198 with the rest of our district, and we've assisted other fire departments 82 times. Puts us right back into EMS response. EMS response is another issue that it keeps going up and going up and going up. And from 2002, when we've hired our first career staff person, now that we have 17 that we're trying to cover around the clock with 4 firefighter EMTs, one of them being a shift lieutenant on there shift, and during the daytime, Monday through Friday, there's an career assistant chief that runs the fire station when the volunteer officers are not in the station. As you can see, also EMS is on a record high, especially with the trend line going across. Last year, they went 3,924 calls. They're well above 2417. Now, that was a couple days when I did that. So they're on trend to be almost 4,000 or more calls this year for EMS alone. That's running 2 ambulances 24 hours a day, with the third one as the backup if we can staff it. As you can see, we also have the call breakdown from the city. As you can see, most of our calls in the blue lines there are all city breakouts from 2019, 20, and 21, 22. So we're handling a lot of emergencies within the city. Also, that we're kind of good sometimes is because the city has a quick turnaround because of our local hospital that's here that we can do that. Lately, that our local hospital's been going on divert a lot, and it pushes us out to PRMC or Milford, and it causes issues within the system that we have to come up with other type stuff, other type of response criteria for bringing other ambulances in the district, such as Station 72 Bridgeville or Station 71 Blades to assist us. The call breakdowns for the last couple of years, as you can see, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, and Omega. They're all the call emergency types that we get, and there's a bunch of them fall. So if you think that Alpha are the very least ones, it's like somebody stubbed their toe or they have a headache or something like that. It's not causing anything else. Echo being the highest, which are CPR calls, advanced traumas, stuff like that. Omega calls are stuff like we respond on when somebody calls and say, hey, can you help me back in bed and stuff like that. So but as you can see, that most of our call load for the last couple of years, it's about equal for all the type of emergencies within our fire district that we respond on. I'm gonna let Matt talk a little bit about this. So I'll give him, one of my goals is, because, being fire chief for 5 years, is making sure that the younger officers that are stepping up, they're gonna step up, they're gonna have to talk to you sooner or later. So here's Matt. So.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Matt Reed, Deputy Chief of the Seaford Volunteer Fire Department. I'm going to do a brief overview of our current fleet of apparatus before I turn it back over to the Chief. If anybody has any questions for me at the end, let me know. We did 5 runs after 10 o'clock last night. I'm a little short in sleep, so I stumbled over my words. Bear with me here. So if you look up on the board, our current apparatus fleet is 3 ambulances, a brush truck, 3 Class A engines, one of them being a tanker, heavy rescue, a 100-foot ladder truck, and a boat, and several utility vehicles and command trucks. So where this is important to us is that everything highlighted in yellow is due to be replaced now. Obviously, financially, that's not something that we're able to do. So in the past couple of years, we've been trying to push a couple pieces back a couple years off the replacement plan to kind of be able to fit the money in where we can. Where we don't have the most lenience in moving things around is, as you see at the bottom, very bottom left, it shows our replacement plan is pumpers is 20 years, the rescue and ladder is 25 years, and the support pieces are 15 years, ambulances are 10. Why that's important is because everybody's familiar with the ISO ratings and how that impacts insurance ratings for the citizens. In order to maintain a certain ISO rating, you have to have a specific amount of Class A engines available to respond. And in order for it to be considered a Class A engine, they say it can't be front run or first out the door for more than 20 years. And then after that, it needs to go into reserve status. So we don't really have the ability to have reserve apparatus because all of our engines are available to respond because different call types require different amounts of apparatus out the door. So one of the things that we've had to talk about lately is possibly refurbishing fire engines or whatever equipment that is. According to the NFPA, if you refurbish a truck that meets certain standards, you can extend that front year life 5 years. So we have to, we're currently into the weeds of doing the math and figuring out if the money spent for refurbishment is worth the 5 years that we'll gain, or whether we need to bite the bullet and just buy a new replacement. Jack mentioned that our minimum staffing is 2 BLS ambulances. In order, as you are aware, to keep 2 running, you have to have 3 because one of them is always in the shop or getting maintenance and that kind of thing. So that's what puts the 3rd ambulance into our rotation. With the current climate with products and availability, fire trucks right now are around 16 months to 3 years for replacement if you order them now. So if we sign contracts on an engine now, we're not getting it for 2 years. So that kind of puts that list in perspective of where we need to be at purchasing wise compared to what we physically could if we wanted to, just in duration of build times. So up until about 5 years ago, we had 5 Class A engines, or 4 Class A engines, I'm sorry. That did give us the ability to have more of a rotation in the equipment, but with the cost of apparatus, we weren't able to afford keeping those 4 engines just because that in rotation wasn't financially feasible. We're currently in a committee right now replacing our ladder truck, or coming up with a spec to replace the ladder truck. When our ladder truck was bought in 2001, it was just under $1 million. Right now, if we spec'd out that exact same truck, it'd be $1.92 million to replace. So costs have gone way, way up on apparatus fronts, just as, any other vehicles around are. So that kind of is making decisions tough for us on what we want to buy. So before we used to be able to get what we wanted and what we thought would perform the best. Now, business decisions need to be made of, what is maybe not the best, but what's good, what is, adequately serviceable that we can get at a lower price. So that's kind of where we're at with the apparatus. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Yes, sir.
Matt, first of all, I appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you touched a little bit about the ladder truck. Can you give us an idea, and it doesn't have to be exact, like what the cost is associated with replacing those vehicles?
Yep. The chief has at the end. Right now, an ambulance is between $250,000, $350,000. A fire engine is around $750,000 to $900,000, depending on what you get. And the ladder trucks are anywhere between $1 million to $2 million, depending on what features you want on the aerial truck.
Okay. Thank you, appreciate it.
Are there any other questions for the deputy chief? Okay,
Thank you.
good job, Matt.
Real good job.
So it brings us back to our staffing problem. This is, in 2016, when I was a captain, I was appointed to a committee at Seaford Fire Department to figure out where we were. We came up with some recommendations for changing in our fires, our administrative side for, classifications and stuff like that. But pretty much, really not a lot has changed within those other than a couple of life members have made it. So our life membership is 25 years. So once you achieve active member, you're an active member for 25, you become a life member, then you get some other stuff with that, I'm trying to think of the cool stuff, but it's almost like a retirement, but you still have all the active, accolades that go along with it. Our active membership is a little bit tougher. As you can see, it shows in 2016 with active, there was 32, and now we're down to 28. But really, the chart to the right, which is kind of hard to see, that it shows that what really hits the rubber meets the road is what responds. We're only averaging about 7.5 people, volunteers per call. So that means that when it calls, because our call load is going up very drastically, it's hard for a volunteer to dedicate his time when we're running so much that they got family, they got 2 jobs, they got other commitments that are important to their lifestyles, church and stuff like that they're trying to deal with. That it shows a great effect on ours and being a volunteer. And absolutely, that there is nothing greater than a heart of a volunteer. But the problem with that is that family comes first. And that's the choices that they have to make sometimes, and we understand that. So that's why we have 17 career people, so there's always career people in the station. As you can see on the bottom one where it says our career staffing, since January 1, 82% of the time we've had 1, 2, 3, 4 career people on apparatus 82% of the time, and there's only been 18% of the time where they haven't been on the apparatus. So there has been a big change. That's why the word combination. So there's career fire departments, if you understand that. That means they're all totally career, such as a fully manned police department. Then a combination fire department is a combination of career fire department firefighters and volunteer firefighters to meet the mission that is required. And there's all volunteer, and there's rural volunteer and stuff like that. There's different classifications. So as you can see that we are not bringing in a lot of young people into our firehouse. We're not bringing a lot of diversity into our firehouse. It's changing, but it's happening at a very slow pace, especially with the different type of groups, minority groups that are within, females, African Americans, Hispanics, Haitians. Where it's like we're having a hard time drawing them to the fire department. I don't know what that reason is. The junior members thing, we pushed out one year. We pushed out like 65 junior applications to people from when we went to events and stuff like that. And right now we have 3 juniors. In 2016, we only had 5. I think they've had times where they've had 10 or 12, but most of them you can't think. Matt was one of those juniors out of that group a while ago. Ben O'Beer, gentlemen like that are still here. Patrick Gaskin and stuff. They're still officers of our department. So they're still hold on. Most of the time within also this, that our average lifespan of a volunteer is probably, if they decided they're going to be active, it's 3 to 5 years. And then they're doing something else. With our career staff, it's a little different. It's a vested thing. They're getting paid to be there. and they're being paid under their union contract and everything like that. So as you can see, it's directly affecting it. And the volunteerism is just not the fire department, it's other organizations too. But the fire department is a critical infrastructure of the city and the people that provide life-saving measures to you. So if anybody's watching this, if you're interested, please stop by the firehouse and talk to us. Some of the future thoughts that I have in here, so you have an idea. So if we get dispatched for a fire call from Sussex EOC right now, if we don't make the response in 8 minutes, they're automatically going to send the next fire department. So some of the things that we have down below is going to make more sense for this. If an EMS unit doesn't get on the street within 6 minutes, they're dispatching it. But the problem is we're putting ourselves right into deadly areas that affect our citizens. A home fire can double every 90 seconds. If you have a small fire, it can double and also become a raging out of control fire for us before we get there in 90 seconds if we're not on the street. So far this year in 2022, there's been 1,396 home fatalities in the United States. In the last 5 years in Seaford, we've had 3 in our fire district. We're one of the highest ones in our district area. There's also some National Fire Protection Association standards that are out there, 1710 and 1720, which is a NFPA that puts a bunch of recommendations out that also become standards as long as the authority having jurisdictions such as the State Fire Prevention Commission, municipalities, stuff, they adopt them. But 1710 and 1720, that documentation is out there. It says it's a document that provides proper response criteria for career and volunteer fire departments with time limits and personnel needed for structure fires. I just wrote down the real simple one. 1710 for career fire departments with a 2,000 square feet type structure home requires 16 firefighters, 8 minutes, 90% of the time, at 90% of the time. For the volunteer 1720, which is also requires firefighters, it requires 10 firefighters, 10 minutes, 80% of the time. We are not getting 10 firefighters on the scene within 10 minutes at a time. We may be getting 4 or 5, 6 sometimes. We have staff crews and stuff like that, but it's really hard. And many people struggle with these performance standards throughout the United States, just not Seaford and whatever else. So those standards are out there to understand. We talk about our volunteer membership a little bit. Recruitment and retention is one of the toughest things we're going through right now. We can't find a good recruitment and retention person. We're having a hard time, keeping up with the membership things. We have, because we required physicals and background checks by the state of Delaware, it's been tough to find people to make sure that we're sufficiently handling those type of things. So it is a real downer for a lot of people that may want to volunteer. And we're not getting a lot of applications, maybe 1 or 2 a month or something like that. So it's not a lot. The other thing is the number of hours required to volunteer. If you figure that, like Matt told you last night, we ran after 10 o'clock. We had 6 calls. So if you live outside, that's probably a good 2 or 3 hours you got to take out of your time after midnight. Then you got to go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. So there. Training and education needs. There's always going to be training and education even for the volunteers. There's no difference between a career firefighter and a volunteer firefighter when it comes to training, as long as you take advantage of it. All of it's out there to make sure. We do offer training in-house, and also we require our membership to attend the Delaware State Fire School, which has all the basic programs for all the volunteers to make sure that they meet some of the NFPA 1001 Firefighter 1 standards. We talked about family jobs and commitments, the fact that all the non-response, and the other thing for volunteer membership, we're trying to make sure that we have duty crews and staff crews in station to help them out with times and dates, but that's a culture change, and we're working on ourselves. Our career staffing has increased with trained firefighter EMTs. They officially respond with trained volunteers. One thing what career firefighters do is it increases the response time, effectively save lives and property. With increased career staffing comes a financial obligation from the fire department to sustain operation, which is the big one. Just a reminder to cost, as the councilman asked earlier, Matt alluded to some of these. The new ambulance is about $260,000 to $350,000. The new engine's about $750,000 to $950,000. Cost of the latter could be anywhere from $1 million to $1.9 right now. The cost for us to outfit one firefighter is about $5,000. That means with all the gear and stuff that he gets, or he or she gets, I should say. The cost to train the firefighter right now for all the basic volunteer classes is about $1,100, and it's going to go up. That's That's probably about 300 hours worth of training that the fire school, because the State Fire Academy has to give it at low cost prices by state statute or state law. The cost of training an EMT is about $900, and our new equipment make sure that we stay over equipment and budget is about $90,000 a year to make sure we keep our equipment up to date and stuff on our apparatus. Oh, sorry. In closing, I just want to say that we truly appreciate that the support we get from the city of Seaford, our citizens around us, the council, the mayor. It's very transparent. As you can see, I come and I tried to make sure that the fire department's represented at a lot of stuff. I think it's important for the fire department to be the catalyst, such as the police department. I think that people, when they see us out on the street and we're doing things and they know that we're there to help them, and we have very good trained volunteer and career people, there's a sense of relief sometimes. We have saved a lot of lives. We have saved a lot of property. The only way it's going to get better in the future is, I hate to say that, is by staffing, by getting people and financial obligations. The fire department cannot raise taxes. We cannot get money from anything else. You know, it's hard for us to do. Going out to do a chicken barbecue, it only gets us $2,000 a year. It doesn't pay for much in the firehouse. And it's grateful that we do it sometimes, but without the large amount that we get from the state, the county, and city of Seaford, and other donors that give us stuff, it really keeps us moving right along. I can't promise you what's going to happen in the future of our fire service. The fire service is changing culturally and dynamically to where it's at. As call loads go up in the state of Delaware, it becomes a round robin from Newcastle County to Kent County and Sussex County to, how we're going to deal with this in the future. In closing, I appreciate us having the time. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, does City Council have any questions? Councilman King.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, once again, thank you for the vital service that you and your team provide.
Thank you.
Just sitting here looking at the cost associated with your day-to-day operation, it just is mind-blowing to me. A lot of times you don't understand the importance of something until you need it. With that being said, you provide a service to a 77 square mile radius, right? So in and outside the city limits of Seaford.
Yes.
What does that look like as far as the amount of money that, I guess, the county or other towns, or what does that look like? Because
I can address that a little bit.
Okay.
Sussex County is very grateful to the fire service. So is the state of Delaware. Okay. They're giving as much as they can. We did get a little bit, some extra money this year from the state, also from the county this year. They're trying their best to make sure that they understand the problems as much as we are. We also are guided by the state and county to make sure that we're financially responsible by audits. We get audits every year, and if we don't turn them in, we can be accountable for that. We could be fined and other stuff like that, but we're trying to work through that. Seaford is one of those towns that when we go to meetings, other fire companies do get upset about, because Seaford does take care of the fire department. City of Dover is probably getting, City of Wilmington, because it's all career, is 100%. City of Dover is in the millions of dollars what they provide to their fire department. Then you have Seaford, and then you have smaller cities like Middletown and stuff like that are offering, benefits to their fire departments. But Seaford is in the top three. The overall package, the direct effect of us is the $3,800, and I'm not trying to be smart, but overall, but that insurance, the fuel, the set aside money is important to us, because it helps us in the future figure out where we have to go. If without that stuff, it would be really hard. If we were doing that on our own, such as our neighbors at Blades and stuff like that, you see that they really have to decide where their financial obligations have to go to, and we don't have that pressure, paying for the insurance, because the city of Seaford does take care of us on that, and I appreciate that.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Any other questions? Councilman Santos.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fire Chief, thank you once again for everything that you guys do. If you guys get someone that wants to volunteer, how many months, how long before they're out there ready to serve?
So once we get them accepted into the fire department itself, we try to issue them gear and let them ride as observers on the apparatus. As long as there's a spot that's not taken from a trained firefighter, they can ride right away with us and ride as observers and support people. We'll train them to certain levels. By the time they start fire academy to the time that we get them through is probably for a volunteer, it can anywhere from, as long as, if they go through the year-long process, it'd take them about a year. If not, it takes them about 2 years to be certified to do interior firefighting and other rescue operations.
And do they have to live within a certain area or be at the department by a certain time frame?
Well,
Is that a
it's
constraint?
always important for us to be there on a certain time because seconds do count for us. Our Seaford Fire Department does have a rule, you have to live within the Seaford Fire District. But as we see as being a traditional rule with a lot of fire departments around in our state, that they're changing that are opening up to either miles outside the fire district and stuff. One thing that we have to compete with is that our neighboring fire department, Blades, is not that far from us. The only difference is that our call load is much different than theirs is because of the district size. We always try to make sure we have a good working relationship with making sure that people, when the tones go off and the police understand that they're responding, we don't want our people to be haphazardly doing unsafe things while they're driving to the firehouse. But the problem is most of our people live outside where the firehouse is, and we probably only have 4 or 5 active people to live within the city limits that can get here quick to get the first apparatus in the street. The career staff hasn't already initiated that. So the other ones are, so we say the first 3 minutes, and then I'll say 6 or 7 minutes is probably when the next apparatus is usually hitting the street, as long as if there's nobody staffed that's in the firehouse. So it does matter, so.
Thank you. And what's the youngest someone can start?
So we have a junior firefighter program. Our junior fire program is that it's 14 to 18. And we try to make sure that they get all their training and they do stuff around the station or actively involved. Like I said, right now we have 3 junior members now that are there. I think one's getting ready to turn 18 here and he's a senior in high school. So he's going to go to the active membership status after some time, but we'll have 2. So 14 is the youngest.
Thank you.
Chief, we're going to have these conversations going forward for sure, because it is getting to be a number that's getting challenging for you and for us. But I don't want you to miss the opportunity with the Seaford School District being here tonight, that those youngsters that get involved have been some of your key members today. And for a young person who maybe isn't involved in sports or isn't involved in something, this is a great way to get surrounded by adults and see an opportunity for future careers and things like that. So
we had a pretty good ongoing conversation with Dr. Miklas. COVID stopped all that, and I'm hoping to get that back now with Ms. Hastings there and her son's a junior member. We're hoping that maybe a little bit more of a push. And then we did fix our flagpole today, so I hope they help us out. So.
yes, sir.
And if you have junior firefighters that are at the high school and there's a fire alarm, are they able to? I remember back when I was in high school, I'd hear the fire alarm and people would run.
I know that certain school districts do that. That would be something that has to have a conversation with the school district. We don't really condone that the juniors coming out of school. We really say at Seaford that we think their education is really important. Not that they don't want to come. If we have a really serious incident, that there's something we can have a direct line with Seaford and say, hey, can we learn? I think Smyrna School District has a policy where they'll say that if it's a serious incident in the Smyrna Fire District, that in Clayton Smyrna Fire District, they'll come to the radio and say, hey, it's Clayton Smyrna juniors. They know who they are. Firefighters, please respond to the firehouse. But they got to also remember that a lot of our calls are the non-serious, I won't say non-serious type, the non-significant types where we have to automatic fire alarms and stuff like that. So that's where we have that right now.
Chief, thank you. Deputy Chief, thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, next we're going to call up Mr. Ben Hearn to go over Phase 2 of the Western Sussex Business Campus.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. How's it going?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here to talk to you about Virginia Avenue and North Market Street intersection relating to the pedestrian accommodations as a part of the Western Sussex Business Campus. So just to give you a little bit of history, as part of this project, Phase 1 and Phase 2, we had to complete a traffic study as part of project approval process with DelDOT. One condition of this this traffic study was that a pedestrian analysis and improvements at this specific intersection, as well as Ross Station Road and North Market Street Extended intersection, were performed. Initially, city manager and economic development director agreed that the city would want to provide improved ADA ramps and crosswalks at both of these intersections, especially this one as it is a school corridor. But DelDOT's requirements of what those improvements look like have brought us to a decision point. And as a result of the process we've went through, we've identified 3 options that we think, need to be considered. So just, if you're not aware, obviously on the lower right hand of each side of the intersection is Seaford High School. On the other side is Central Elementary, and to the north of that is Seaford Police Department and a residence. So this is what the intersection looks today. Option 1, and I guess what we've got provided is a general sketch of what the intersection might look like. This would be an all-way stop intersection. We would add 2 stop signs. Currently, Virginia Avenue is a regulated, intersection. It's allowed straight through, turning movements, no stopping. As part of this option, we would add stop signs, stop bars, and basically make it a controlled stop. We'd add the ADA ramps and the crosswalk as proposed. Just also to note, this is the reason, some of the questions is, why is this in DelDOT's purview related to our project at Business Campus? They're very different. They're, distant. It's considered a site entrance by DelDOT, as this is the first entrance or first road, DelDOT road, that the site traffic would be impacting. It'd be this intersection as well as Ross Station Road and North Market Street Extension. So with this option, we're thinking that the total cost in terms of implementation would be approximately $6,200. This specific option would need city endorsement, basically some sort of letter if you go with this option for DelDOT to move forward. We would need to do a traffic study, a warrant analysis to warrant that this would be the correct option, and then implement it in construction. So the next option would be implementation of RRFBs, or rapidly flashing beacons, which is very similar to what's been put in up by the hospital at Middleford Road. Additionally, we would add some pavement markings along with the requisite ADA ramps and pavement markings. One specific thing on this option we might have to implement curb bump outs to shorten the crossing distance across Virginia Avenue. That's to be determined, but it's a possibility that DelDOT's looking, and it's all about making the intersection a little bit safer. So looking at the cost here, we'd be looking at anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 for design and implementation during construction. And then the last option would be the implementation of a median island, which would be obviously in the middle of the road. We'd have to basically restripe the road. We'd have to install a concrete median with a throughway for the pedestrian crosswalk, as well as some signage and some paving. Some of the, I guess for this cost, we'd be anticipating $40,000. There are some drawbacks to this specific option relating to turning radius of the trucks that use this intersection. While they're not large trucks, the local delivery trucks might have somewhat of an issue making that turn, as well as school buses, which is obviously, by all the schools nearby is an issue. So if the council elected to go down this route, we'd have to look at the turning radius of a school bus as well as the other vehicles to see how to properly implement it. Yeah. So
All
I
right.
don't know if you got any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Hearn? Mr. Henderson?
Thank you for the presentation. Is it safe to assume that option
1, 2, and 3 are presented by your preference?
It's probably a safe assumption. I mean, I think if we were gonna recommend the option, I think it would be option 1. I think that would be our recommendation to the city. It's the least impact and the easiest to implement, and probably the most safest to implement.
Okay. Other questions from council? Okay, if there are no other questions, I'll accept the motion.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Councilman King, I'll make a motion to approve option 1 presented by Ben Hearn, PE project engineer with George, Miles, and Burr for redesign the intersection of Virginia Avenue and Market Street to accommodate Phase 2 of the Western Sussex Business Campus as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I'll second that motion.
Okay, are there any questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. It's unanimous. Thank you so much. All right, next we're going to call up the school district, Mrs. Simmons, to go over the changes for School Lane.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Kim Simmons, and I am currently the supervisor of transportation for the school district, but part of that umbrella is also school safety. And so for 20 years, I've been in the district, and we've had lots of concerns and questions about traffic flow around the 3 main campuses. And so tonight, we're kind of here. I have Miss Gigi Hastings from the high school with me. I have Doug Henry, who is supervisor of buildings and grounds, Dr. Miklas, our superintendent, as well as Dave, oh my gosh.
Tall.
I just drew a blank, I'm sorry. Our board president, I'm sorry. Extremely nervous. And you know, it's amazing because I can teach in front of kids, but this is like the worst ever. So, we started talking this past spring about, how can we make things better? How can we improve the situation, knowing that we've got a lot of parameters and a lot of hands in the bucket, if you will. And so we started having meetings with Seaford Police Department, the City of Seaford, us, and then this past year, we've also had DelDOT has been doing an additional study of School Lane and Stein Highway, that intersection. And so this spring, we actually come together and started talking about what is it that we are looking for. So some of the things that we're concerned about are obviously the student safety. Many of them are walkers. We have a large number of students who fall in that 2-mile radius from the schools, and that makes them a walker to school. So they could be walking, they could be riding the bus and getting off the bus where the drop zones are, or their parents are bringing them. And certainly because of COVID, we've had a lot more parents bringing their kids to school. And so the numbers of cars have increased because of that. Because of that, vehicular safety is also a concern. It's very tight in some of these areas and some of these streets and some of these intersections. And then when you add a bus perhaps in there, or a FedEx truck or whatever happens to be on either of these areas, it becomes very tight. So traveling with vehicles is also an issue. And certainly the time has been a concern. We love Mr. Parker, and his help with what they call the pickle of stopping traffic for us has been great. But it's also something, the longer that we have to stop traffic, then becomes concerns for Seaford PD, and we're having more angry parents and more angry people who are just not happy with the morning drop-offs or the afternoon. So we kind of want to try to figure out how can we make things better. So I point out here in this map the areas of concern. We kind of have the rectangle, if you will, of Stein Highway being our main backup or jam, because that's the busiest one. And then you go down School Lane, and you also have North Market Street extended, as well as Virginia Avenue, kind of like on the back end of the rectangle. So just kind of, this is the 4 main roads that we're discussing, and we're trying to figure out how can we improve things. Oops. So we start talking about what are some things we could do short term. What can we fix right away? Some things are easy. Other things we come into, it's money, it's time. You get into how much land can you move at a time to make a parking lot. There's all kinds of parameters of making those things just don't happen overnight. And so we've tried to figure out what can we tackle right away and get done versus what can we put on the back burner and we know that are coming. So in tonight's presentation, I've got some of those other long-term solutions that might be coming along the way, but certainly it's not going to start us for the school year coming forward. So again, the city, Seaford has been in this. Mr. Anderson has been at some of the meetings that we've had. Marshall Kraft and Officer RAPA have also been part of this plan and helping us implement this. We've met with John, his name is Derryberry from DelDOT. Let me get to this page here. And he and his group have also been part of this last meeting that we have because they were doing the study at School Lane and Stein Highway. And so obviously those of us at the Seaford School District, we've all come to the table to kind of figure out what can we do. City of Seaford has been part of the process. Officer Rappa actually has taken the drone up to help us. Mr. Anderson has been there helping us try to figure out what can we solve. We've had conversations about Mr. Hearn's presentation about the Virginia Avenue, knowing that that plays into this rectangle, if you will. And certainly just knowing that the city's been on board with some of these changes that we're asking for has been huge. Again, RAPA has taken up the drone for us. They've come up with some solutions. They've come up with some simple fixes. Some were easy for us to kind of figure out, and others have been a little bit harder on that long-term status as well. Certainly, they have helping us train for our resource officers. The pickle that I refer to is what stops the traffic there on Market Street and Stein Highway, and that's Mr. Parker that's typically doing that, and if not, Seaford PD has to help us out with that. And then again, Seaford PD has been part of the process and the planning and helping us implement this, and as we go through what we're asking for, Seaford Police Department will also be part of helping us enforce this. And so DelDOT, like I said, has been part of this. I want to touch bases here that they are currently looking at a study right now of the School Lane and Stein Highway. They are also looking at Virginia Avenue and Bridgeville Highway, which is it's an extension of kind of where we're talking about, but it's still a hot spot, and DelDOT is looking at that. And we also know, we've been in talk with DelDOT, they're also looking at Stein Highway and Bridgeville Highway, which is kind of down there at the Dunkin' Donuts, and that congestion in the mornings and afternoons as well. And then certainly those of us on the Seaford School District. And so I want to talk to you real quickly with Ms. Hastings about some things that we have done at the school district to make some changes, those short-term things that hopefully can help fix things right away. So I'm going to let her take over real quickly, and I'm going to play Vanna White for a minute.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So one of the first changes that we are going to be implementing this school year is that when you are traveling on School Lane, or for morning PM drop off.
This is PM drop, I'm sorry.
Yes, sorry, PM dismissal. First is our buses will be leaving out one way. So Kim is pointing that when they leave from dismissal, they'll be all traveling the same direction.
So what that means is when at 2:30, when the buses are ready to leave, we are going to be filtering them all out through Market Street and Stein Highway. We're going to hold that pickle a few extra minutes, hold that traffic a few extra minutes. What typically has been happening is the buses, when they leave the high school or the middle school, they kind of all just go in different directions. And it creates more of a backlog because you're now having to wait for somebody at a bus down at School Lane, and now they're back on Virginia Avenue, and so they're kind of all over the place. And so this was an easy fix that was recommended by the Seaford Police Department, was to have us all funnel everything out, hold traffic just a few more minutes longer. And when a buses come out there at school, from the middle school, basically, and turn left at the light, they then have to make a decision. Are they going to go left towards McDonald's? Are they going to go across and go down towards Blades? Or are they going westbound of the city? And they would have to make that decision based upon their route.
So the other change that we are going to be implementing this school year is we are going to be having the parking lot that is next to the football field. So to help you all with this picture, the parking lot directly off of Market Street. Currently, where there's a red in the white cars, that currently is an exit only. We are going to be changing it to an entrance and exiting out on the other side where the yellow is. We've had a few traffic incidents at that area in particular where people are either coming into where it currently is exit only, or in leaving in the afternoon, it causes some congestion as well. This is also going to be student-only parking. The idea is, obviously, we're trying to break down the congestion that's happening on Market Street in the AM and PM. So this will be where students are only parking. They will be arriving, obviously, depending on school activities. They could arrive as early as 7 a.m. or even actually 6:30 a.m. if they're in drill guard with our ROTC. But the main majority of those students will be arriving about 7:30 in the morning.
Our special programs buses will also be coming in
Yes.
this direction. They will come in as well, and they drop off here at that area as well,
So our comprehensive buses and our autism buses, it's about four,
depending on the day.
4 buses. They come in well before our students arrive, the majority of our students. So that is the other reason why we chose this as the student parking lot. The arrival time for those buses are typically earlier than the majority of our students. We will be having staff, because this is going to be an adjustment for everyone. We will be having staff and signage also put up with the new routes. We'll have staff because we will not be allowing parent drop-off in that front circle of the high school. So we will be having custodial staff, admin staff. Teachers will have duties at the beginning of the year to kind of help with the flow and making sure everyone is understanding where they're going. We are going to be putting this information out through Facebook, Blackboard, through phone calls, emails, our website, and we'll be sending home a letter with schedules as well, explaining this new information.
You also mentioned that the parking lots, Mr. Henry has the parking lots also being
Yes.
redone and repainted, so lines will be done and arrows and things like that will be done on the parking lot as well.
Lines, arrows, and numbers. Everyone will be assigned a number. So students have to have a permit as well as staff, and they will be assigned a number. And these are just the arrows showing you the flow of traffic with the proposed changes. So this is our new parent drop-off pickup route. This is the parking lot that is across from the police station. If you're coming to the high school for a basketball game, this is also the parking lot that you park in. So this will now be our staff parking lot and student athletes as well. So the idea is with staff, because staff has to arrive by 7:15, so it will not create a cluster with parents dropping off, because parents are dropping off well after 7:15. Staff will be parking there. The very first parking spots on both sides will be for student athletes only. The idea behind that is our athletic buses pick up and drop off from behind the gymnasium, because that's where our locker rooms are. And we do not want our student athletes having to walk across Market Street or through the school late at night when they arrive home. It also makes it easier because they're going to be leaving from the gym. They might need to get things out of their cars. So those will be the only students parking in that parking lot. The rest will be staff. As you can see, for parent drop-off and pickup, the flow will be in and around and dropping off right where the buses on the other side are dropping off too. So all students will be going in one door. Again, this parking lot will be repainted. There will be arrows, there will be signage. We will have additional staff out to help with this change in process. And we will be putting this information out through the same format as the other.
Okay, so those are some of the things that we're doing like right away, starting in like a week and a half, basically. The 24th is the first day for students, and so we are trying to get all of this done on our end to kind of make that happen for this to start with the school year. So here's what we are asking for, and here's where we need your help, Councilman. We're asking for some changes to School Lane as well as to Market Street to help us in this. I've got a video too that I'm going to show you that Officer Rappa took in the afternoon. So we've got a couple things to ask for and show you in this presentation. This first one is the video, and this is actually looking at the top of the middle school, and you can see where the Catholic church is, and so we're looking at the south end, if you will, of School Lane. Now, I'm going to show you this video. It's very short, But I also want to just preface it that this is a good day. This is a really good day. Because if you notice in the video, on the other side of the school buses, there's no cars parked there. On a normal school day, there are parents who are trying to pick up their kids there. Kids are walking across the buses. You'll notice even on down where the buses, the last two buses are here at the back, there's sometimes maybe even more cars in that area, and certainly there would be kids all over the place walking home in that situation. So as I show you this video, which is kind of why we're here, this is hopefully good. So we have our first bus who's trying to get out desperately. And he's trying. Notice the car that's in the farthest left lane coming towards, who really doesn't stop.
Isn't the police normally there? stopping
Some
traffic?
days they are, and some days they aren't, depending upon their availability. And so again, this is a good day. Mr. Henry and I have been around long enough to know that we've had several students hit in this main area here. As much as we try to educate the kids about walking in a crosswalk, sometimes it's like talking to the wall, and so they don't do that, and so they just literally, because they want to go to Family Dollar real quick, they just jet across the street, or they do their own thing. They don't ever make it down to Dunkin' Donuts where they're supposed to go across. So this happens to be a very good day. So you can kind of see School Lane, especially in this area, is very, very congested, not only in the mornings, but in the afternoons as well. So what we're asking for on School Lane, and notice we've color-coded these, but that's not necessarily like, it's to help explain it, if that makes sense. So the yellow side, the yellow line, which is the east side of School Lane, we are asking for signage to be put up that there is no parking 7 to 3. Before 7, after 3, anybody can park there. We're just asking that from the end of School Lane, closest to the Catholic Church, back to State Street, signage goes up and there's no parking on that side of the street 7 to 3. On the opposite side, which is more the school side, we're asking for signage to be put up again so that it would be a loading and unloading zone. So parents could pull up there and just drop off real quick and go. Drop off and real quick and go. Obviously that is where the buses drop off in the mornings. So they're going to be intertwined with the buses as well. But because there's not going to be parking, especially on the school side, where typically right now the staff park at the middle school, that Mr. Cave is aware that this is going to take away some parking, and so he is working on that as well as trying to figure out where those staff members will go and park. But he's aware of that as well. He's been part of this meeting process as well. So we are asking for School Lane for both sides, at least from State Street down to where Stein Highway is. One side, no parking, 7 to 3. The other's kind of just the drop zone, if that makes sense. Okay, hopefully. And again, the pros and cons are there. You can kind of see we would need your approval. It allows for the two-way traffic. And I can tell you with the buses, I didn't know how difficult it was to drive a bus until I actually drove a bus. And so driving a bus, they're on School Lane, you just literally, you don't close your eyes, but you want to close your eyes because it gets very, very tight in that intersection when you have the cars parked here and you've got parents going on this side of you. So some changes to Market Street that we're asking for. Flip over on the other side of the school. So we're asking for the area from the pole, which is actually at the end of a driveway there, to the house that's in that area, that residence. From that area down, all the way down to where it intersects with the exit of the courthouse, for that to be no parking again, 7 to 3. Here's why. If we're now going to have all the buses exiting out in the afternoon, they need to be able to make that swing and that turn, because they may have cars where it actually says on this picture North Market, sometimes cars will pull up that far, and if you're not able to swing the bus out far enough because a car is parked there waiting to pick up their kid or stop there for whatever reason, there's just not enough room to turn that bus. And so we're asking for that piece to be no parking 7 to 3 again. Again, we put a yellow line there, but it would be signage. Some more changes to Market Street. We have 2 more slides. So currently, we went out today at lunchtime. Officer Kraft was out there with us as well. We currently have yellow on the curbs now. It's not very, in some places it's not very visible, but it's there. So what we're asking for is for those repainting 25 feet from the beginning of the curve, or the beginning of that each turn or intersection, if you will, to be repainted and kind of redone and refreshened up, which would obviously mean no parking because it's yellow. Again, we need city council for that. So you can kind of see this is the north side, if you will, of the football field where that would be. And we kind of put the little yellow pieces there along the way, so it would be just at the major intersections at that point. The next one would be kind of the football field south, if you will. And again, we're asking for repainting at each of those intersections or areas, the breaks, if you will, to be repainted and freshened up and enforced. There is one additional piece that we're asking for. It's where the red arrow is, and if any of you have been to a football game, it's kind of right beside the concessions, right there as you're coming out of the middle school. It's kind of like the hot spot, if you will, at the end of the football game because everybody's kind of hangs out there. So we're asking for that painting to be repainted and to go 30 feet, which gives an extra 5 feet, because if you're parked inside the middle school trying to come out, if you don't have enough clearance to be able to see down this way what's coming because the car is so close, and or we have some cars that come out and instead of just going right, they quickly turn left and go down that side street, and so they may not be able to see a kid walking across the street or another car coming or something. So we're asking for that little piece to be, again, 30 feet versus the 25. The darker yellow that you see on there is that piece that we already talked about, which would be the no parking from 7 to 3 as well. And again, we need the city council's approval to make this at this point. So here's what we're asking for, which is kind of like a recap. School lane, east side of the roadway, no parking 7 to 3. West side of the roadway would be kind of that drop zone. Again, 7 to 3, no parking. Market Street, the west side of the roadway, would be from that light pole, which is at the intersection of that driveway that's a residential driveway, to the courthouse exit, no parking from, again, Monday through Friday, 7 to 3. Signage for that as well. Both east and west side of the roadway repainting the 25 feet, except for the additional one of the 30 feet that we're asking for, which is at the south end of the football field. We are also asking that when this is, if and when this is a go, that either Doug Henry or myself, and I know we've already had some conversations with Mr. Anderson as well, so that we can kind of be out there to kind of make sure that, like, where we are and what we're talking about and getting that going. We want to thank you for listening to us, helping us solve some short-term fixes. Some of the long-term fixes, we know that intersection of School Lane and Stein Highway, according to Mr. Derryberry's report, that DelDOT is currently working on a signal in that area. The signal will begin hopefully somewhere in the 2025 fiscal year, but that would be an additional signal where the two already exist. And so if nothing else, that will help slow down traffic. He did assure us that that would be in sync with the other one, so we wouldn't be like causing a backup because of the additional light, but we know that that's coming. It also will put a crosswalk there at that intersection so that kids don't have to walk all the way down. Hopefully, again, with education, we can teach the kids at the end of the school, at Seaford Middle School, they can walk right off and go across the street where there is already a sidewalk there established, and then they can walk down to go to either Chandler Heights or wherever else they may be going at that point, or Family Dollar to get some snacks. We want to thank you, and if you have any questions of any of us, don't kill me.
Well, yeah. Listen, I think this has been a known issue for a long time, right? So this isn't a shock that we're having this conversation, but I did want to say thank you for working as a collaborative group, bringing in the police department and the city manager so we could have good decisions. So good discussion. So are there any questions, Councilman McCoy?
A couple. First, you mentioned earlier that you guys have been talking to DelDOT off and on throughout this process. Specifically for the short-term concerns you're addressing, did they provide any feedback or communication on those?
They were at the meeting when we were there and we were talking about these, and so for what we were discussing, Mr. Anderson was there as well, they were in favor of what we're doing for right now, trying to get these simple fixes, if you will, knowing what we're doing at the school level, but knowing that Virginia Avenue might be looked at and that the other things, and that he also talked about the Virginia Avenue way down, that may be a project, just because they are very much aware. The intersection of School Lane, the report that they were actually did to us, that they gave us the feedback on for that intersection of School Lane and Stein Highway, was all about pedestrians. Was they were worried about what they saw. They took data, they had 2 cameras up for most of the year, and they took all that data and then came back to us with the report, and that's where we met with them on Zoom, and we were like, okay, we need to bring them to the table because this is all in that same area that we're talking about. And so they were very much in favor. We also did ask them about that project at School Lane and Stein Highway, be funded by DelDOT.
Okay. Is the Little J's program still going to be going on this year in school?
Yes, at the high school.
So on the back end where the student athletes are going to be parking and the faculty will be parking, will there be any parking for parents dropping their kids off for Little J's in the morning?
It will be drop-off only.
Okay.
So they will still be dropping off, but keep in mind that's an hour after.
Sure.
It's an hour and 45 minutes
Yeah.
after staff arrives, and the student athletes are only the first 25 at the first 25 on one side, first 25 on the other side when you first pull in.
Okay.
So they'll be coming an hour before, but it will be drop-off only. There will be, we will try to maybe keep a couple spaces open.
Okay.
But also keep in mind, we're trying to,
Get it back on the bus.
yes.
Sure. No, I was just
Yeah.
curious. When I heard student athletes, I want to make sure there was going to be some availability, at least the drop-off portion for
Oh,
it.
the drop-off will still
Yep.
be the same route as it
Okay.
is now, but keep in mind, the high school starts at 7:45. Little J's does not start until between 8:45 and 9 a.m. So there will be no overflow of traffic between the two.
Okay. And Coach Q would be mad at me if I didn't say go Jays. So go Jays.
Councilman King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions. Was there any reach out to the residents that live within that area for thoughts, feelings, concerns, questions? Was there a kind of had something go out to get feedback from the residents that live in those areas that would be impacted?
Yes, sir, Councilman. When we received the letter from Dr. Miklas, the city clerk formulated a letter, which I did execute. We sent it to all the residents on School Lane as well as Market Street. We did receive one email yesterday from, and the property owner actually owns 2 properties on Market Street. They expressed that this was a good solution for the safety of the children. Their biggest concern was they really didn't want signage in their front yard. So we're certainly going to work with that property owner. Once the police department identifies exactly what signs go where, we'll try to make it as least intrusive as possible for that property owner. But that was the only property owner we heard from.
And the other question I have, and this is just more of an observation, we talk a lot about the no parking signs, right? To me, that sign should be more of a no parking, stopping or standing, right? So if I'm dropping somebody off, I'm not literally parking, right? I'm pulling in, dropping somebody off, and away I go. So I would look at that language and maybe add, if this passes, add stopping or standing, not just parking.
Okay.
Because somebody could say, hey, I'm not parking, I'm just dropping someone off and
Well,
go in and out,
our
you know what I
hope
mean?
is on, at least on School Lane side, absolutely correct on that. Our hope is though that on the School Lane side, that the one side that there is no parking, if you will, that they would kind of flip around and drop off on the other side where there's a whole bunch of, but again,
yeah,
it may not happen.
That's the hope, but the line is right there, there's no
Yes.
gray area, right?
Yes.
Say I wasn't parking, I'm dropping off Joey and
Right.
away I go. And the only other question I have really doesn't have anything to do with this. When you look at why do we only have one crossing guard? When you talked a lot about.
That's a good question.
Like when you get to that end, right, like where the Catholic church is and everyone kind of goes across, why is there one crossing guard and not 2 crossing guards? Because that area is rough.
Yeah, maybe to help with that, the reference was made to the pickle.
Yes.
So that intersection of Stein Highway and Market Street is the only one that has that operational capability.
Okay.
And maybe if you would not mind, Gary, could you go back, or someone go back to the video where it shows both locations? So as Ms. Simmons laid out, DelDOT is working on doing something with that intersection at School Lane. So that's a perfect picture, yes, sir. So a couple things are going to happen there as stated. They're going to, the plan is to introduce a new signal that would be pickle controlled again, and then crosswalks. So having supervision there, you know, Mr. Parker is there at the intersection. He does his best to kind of.
He does a great job.
He does a good job. It's a difficult
Phenomenal
job.
Oh, yeah, he does.
So having a second person at this intersection, I think would greatly improve things, give a little bit more supervision. One of the issues, and not only is that Market Street not the only location that has that supervisory control, we work with the school to actually pay to underwrite some of Mr. Parker.
So if I understood you correctly, DOLOT is looking into that?
Yeah,
The study that we got back from them on that intersection, that in 2025, they're gonna hopefully begin the process of, they've gotta do some zoning and architecture and all of that. They've gotta see how much right-of-way is over there on the side of the graveyard side, to put the lights and the poles, and their plan, though, is to put a light up there, put an intersection light up there, put a crosswalk across there as well.
Is there enough distance between the light
That's what they have to.
We did ask that
Right,
question.
and the reason I'm asking, like at Wawa, right? I asked that question from Stein to where we got that, you can only make that right turn on Tharp, and they said there wasn't enough distance between the two to add an additional light. And so my concern is you've got lights up, is there enough distance between the two?
According to
add it?
DelDOT, and this is from DelDOT, this
Okay.
is from Ms. Jonathan Derryberry that we met with, DelDOT's completed the traffic signal justification study at the intersection of 20 and School Lane, which showed a signal is warranted in the intersection based on pedestrian activity and school operations.
Good.
So
And again, as stated earlier, timing will have to be
Sure.
adjusted. There's a lot that has to go into this.
that's in the long-term phase.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah, because that is a major concern.
it is, but it'll be a very good improvement. And you know, as stated, and I believe the mayor was involved with some studies with DelDOT, they are looking at the Bridgeville Highway Route 20 intersection as well, because there's a lot of traffic there. There was unfortunately an accident that resulted in a loss of life recently on a bicycle, so.
Okay. Well, good presentation.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Any other questions from Councilman Henderson?
I think it's a beautifully drawn out plan. However, I do have a concern, and I understand that you referenced Mr. Cave, that this is going to push staff onto Linden Street, Washington Avenue, and State Street for parking. And that's going to negatively affect the residents there.
It is one of the things that I'm turning around to Doug Henry, because one of the things we're aware of that, there's a section, and I've been at the middle school long enough, so I'm gonna try to explain this to you. In the back of the middle school where the dumpsters are in that area, there is a piece where what used to be in the old days, the old OH, kind of like their playground or their recess area. So we are working as a school district to try to figure out how much of that can we make into somewhat of a parking lot. And so Doug Henry is in the process of trying to figure out, because again, once you move dirt, you know, everybody's involved in that, and so we can't just go build a parking lot like we'd like to. It has to be phased in, but that is something that we are aware of. The middle school parking lot, their normal parking lot, does have spots in it. I know that's not convenient for teachers, for some of them anyway, but it's one of those things that, you know, sometimes we have to do what we have to do. So like the same thing at the high school, switching something that's always been, and it's gonna be growing pains for everyone.
Councilman Santos.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To address Councilman Henderson's concerns, would it provide the same effect if we limited parking in that area during the time periods that the buses are going to be in operation, and not during the time that they're not? So 7 to 9, or however the time period, or in 2 to.
My only concern with that would be that we'd have staff leaving the building to go move their cars, or other people, like, so I don't necessarily know physically and feasibly how that would work if it was staff that we're talking about, because that's typically in the School Lane area, that's the ones who park at least on the right-hand side closest to the school, or the staff involved. You know, maybe, I don't know that.
And we're talking, what, a dozen cars?
Yes, if that.
Is that the staff, you're saying it doesn't?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
familiar with one that parks over there, so.
Don't tell her.
No doubt.
Any
Okay,
other questions?
any other questions from council? If not, again, great job. Really appreciate all of you being here and working with everybody. If there's no other questions, I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve the request from the Seaford School District for parking changes on School Lane from Stein Highway to State Street and on Market Street from State Street to the exit from the JP Court Building, SCTM number 331-5.19-13.00 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman McCoy. Is there a second?
Councilman King, I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
And Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. I'm sure we're going to be having this conversation again in the future, but appreciate it. All right, next we're going to call up the police chief to give a brief discussion on replacing a car.
You know I have to leave because of
I'll be the quickest one you have, sir.
I know it, I know it.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, city manager. I'm back again. So last April, we had put a bid out to purchase a vehicle with city funds on a bid. There were two bidders that responded. We made a proposal in council in April, late April of last year, and unfortunately, the winning bidder, which was Hertrick, had provided us with a 2021 Escape Hybrid, all-wheel drive, and we selected that vehicle. It was $26,537. They were supposed to deliver that vehicle to us, and unfortunately, there was a administrative error where they sold that vehicle, and they've been trying to rectify that ever since. And we're suffering for vehicles in CID. So what they've done is they've came back and they've tried to make it right. And so what they've offered now is a 2022 Chevrolet Equinox LS all-wheel drive. And they've offered that vehicle for the tune of $23,644, which is a savings of $2,893 on the original bid for Hertrick, and also a savings from IG's bid in the amount of $2,331. IG had offered a similar vehicle, also a 2022 Chevrolet Equinox. Theirs was a front-wheel drive. Hertrick is upping it to a all-wheel drive in addition to the $2,some $100 savings. I think it's wise for the city. That's a great deal. That's about the cheapest we can find. Unfortunately, because now we're in a new fiscal year, it's unbudgeted funding. So my request is that the city authorize funds that are unbudgeted to purchase this vehicle, and we'll make sure that we go there in person so no one buys the vehicle from
Okay,
us.
all right. Any questions for the chief in regards to the purchase of this vehicle? If not, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the purchase of a 2022 Chevrolet Equinox LS all-wheel drive vehicle for the Seaford Police Department as an unbudgeted expenditure to replace a vehicle that was not received in the fiscal year 22 budget year as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Henderson. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I'll second that motion.
All right, any questions on the motion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
job, Chief.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Chief.
All right, old business. We have the follow-up from Smart Utility Management.
We do, and Mr. Chris Sims is not going to be here, so Director of Electric Bill Bennett and I will try to answer any questions council has. Because there were so few questions last time, we felt like staff could handle the second reading. If council has any questions, certainly the director or I can try to answer those questions.
Mr. Bennett was watching to see if I was going to fall out. All right, are there any questions for Mr. Bennett in regards to the Smart Utility presentation from the last meeting? Looks like you're good, Mr. Bennett. If not, then we will need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve the ordinance to amend Chapter 6 of the Municipal Code of Seaford, Delaware relating to electricity that would increase the net metering cap from 5% to 8% and would eliminate all payments made by the city for excess of kilowatt credits to comply with Senate Bill 298 that was recently enacted by the Delaware legislature as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman McCoy. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay, are there any questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman McCoy.
Aye.
Councilman Holland.
Aye.
Councilman Henderson.
Aye.
Councilman Santos.
Aye.
Councilman King.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Great job, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, reminder of meetings.
Okay, so we only have two. So outdoor movie night featuring Spies in Disguise, Friday, August 12th, 8:30 p.m. at the Market Street grass lot behind City Hall. That was the movie that got rained out most recently. And then the 2022 AFRAM Festival this Saturday, August 13th, 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. at the Ross Station Event Center. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, and for those that are attending that event, there's a 11 a.m. presentation that day, so if you want to time it to come out at that time. So, all right, we'll do committee reports. Councilman Santos with administration and IT.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city staff had a few meetings over the past couple of weeks. They attended the monthly code department meeting. They worked on the Seaford Volunteer Fire Department generator replacement specifications and bid documents. They spoke with a business owner and made a site visit in regards to cross-connection controlled regulations. They participated in a supply chain meeting with the CEO of Delaware Electric Co-op over some transformers, completed a final walkthrough for the Western Sussex Business Campus Opportunity Drive project. They met with the GMB about the Seaford Volunteer Fire Department generator project. They also attended the Help Initiative press conference, met on site at the governor's grant regarding the SW improvements necessary, met with the project architect regarding Birmingham building improvements. They attended the 7-Eleven grand opening and participated in a call with our utility rate consultant regarding water and sewer rate changes for fiscal year 2024. In the IT report, they are doing snapshot cleanups after hours. They assisted with connection issues with one of the Seaford Police Department vehicles. They spent some time working with Nick on the SCADA networking and master station communications, had an annual safety inspection, and for the administration report for the for finance, they're working on fiscal year 2022 audit, or they're preparing for it. All of their business is routine.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up, Police Fire, Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Due to Chief Wilson's extensive report, I'll forego some of the statistics, but I will announce some significant events. On 7/26, there was a hazmat incident at 118 Park Drive for a carbon dioxide leak within the structure, and there was also a DENREC response. On 7/29, we assisted Laurel with a marine rescue for a person in the water in the Nanticoke River. On August 1st, there was a motor vehicle crash with entrapment at Sussex Highway and Tharp Road, where one patient was extricated. Also on August 1st, there was a motor vehicle crash with entrapment into the building at the Nylon Capital Shopping Center, at Butler Sewing Center, where one patient was transported to Tidal Health. On August 4th, there was an assist for the Federalsburg Fire Department. There was a working structure fire on Oak Grove Road, and on August 5th, there was a working structure fire on Dublin Hill Road. All the vehicles are in service, however, there are some equipment problems. The generator is out of service on E87-2, and the stair chair is out of service on ambulance C87. The last training was held on July 25th at Station 87. There was a grain rescue class. 21 were present. The next training is August 17th at Station 87 for box alarm drills, and that's going to be in cooperation with Blades Station 71. Under emergency medical services, the chief did give you some information on that. We had we do have a return to work. Ms. Larry Whaley is returning to work after a medical issue. And under news and events, the chief did allude to being very active in the community. The department was represented at the 7-Eleven grand opening, ribbon cutting. And they were also attended a fire safety and career talk at the Boys and Girls Club on August 4th. And yesterday, they assisted Seaford High School with a flagpole repair. Under Seaford Police Department, Chief Kraft reports, he also has extensive data here for you to review. Under 2022 year-to-date, there's been a total of 5,543 complaints. All crimes is 3652 with a breakdown below all traffic tickets are 4,829. Under crimes for the period, there's 178 crimes reported, and you'll see the distribution there with 10 felonies, 46 misdemeanors, 9 violations, 1 civil issue, and 112 listed as other, for a clearance rate of 83%. There were a total of 24 complaints consisting of aggravated assault, burglary, fraud, larceny, and a robbery, and stalking. And that excludes shoplifting, and there's a 33% clearance rate for those crimes. 19 drug crimes, 18 adult arrests, and 1 prosecution decline. Under traffic, there's 249 traffic contacts with 60 citations, which is down from the previous period. There were 6 warnings issued, 4 DUIs, 22 crashes with 3 injury crashes. Pardon me, and hit and run accidents were a total of 2, which is down from the previous period. You'll see a number of significant events. Which I'll forgo the details. You can review. There's about a half a dozen or 7 there that I'll leave for you to review. Under events, the department was represented by the chief, deputy chief, and Sergeant Larian for the HELP initiative, along with Governor Carney on the 26th. On the 27th, we had the Riding with the Pack event at Boys and Girls Club, where approximately 80 children attended, and there were various department members there. 728 Meadow Bridge food distribution by the chief and deputy chief. And on the 29th of July, there was applicant testing for the department by the deputy chief. Would like to note that Detective Nanola traveled for some training. They call it GREAT training. It's gang resistance education and training, and she will be able to do some on-site presentations and activities at the middle school. And I thought somewhere I saw where she had some activities, Chief. She had 3 activities planned.
So the elementary school will be 8 lesson plans to 1 class. Middle school, 1 classroom with 13 lessons, and we hope to work with the Boys and Girls Club in the summer.
And I'm sorry, I don't see that in the report. I know I saw it before, I just can't see it now.
He probably didn't do it.
So I did want to thank Detective Nanola for for stepping forward and taking this on. It's designed to get the children in their youth and intervene prior to the middle school, like in elementary grades, so that you get them young and get them resisting those pressures through middle school and high school. Studies show that the earlier you get to them, the less likely they'll be involved with those activities later in life. So there is upcoming training for the certified motorcycle training, and that's actually this week. PFC Parker is at University of Delaware taking that course. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Code, Parks and Rec, Councilman Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolved for Parks and Recs. They have coordinated with the State Forestry Department about a planning day for Kiwanis Park in September. And they had completed a 2022 youth tennis clinic with over 40 participants. And they held the first practice of youth field hockey clinic with 27 participants. And they're currently working on sorting teams and confirming coaches for the youth flag football and youth soccer programs with a total of around 230 kids combined. And Nanticoke Watershed Alliance has completed almost all plannings along High Street next to Mount Olive parking lot. And they have included some photos for your viewing, and all the work is routine. And I will switch over to Code Department. 1,652 rental licenses issued out of a total of 1,665 units. 7-Eleven is open for business, and water and sewer connections are underway at Coastal Kids Dentistry, and all the work is routine. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Electric, Councilman McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since the last report, the crew have continued to finish cleaning up from the storm. They've worked on the street lights at Melanie's Ridge, pulled in the primary wire, and set the transformer at Coastal Dentistry so could hook up power or temporary power. Hooked up the house service at residents at River Place Building Number 3, and changed the service at My Eye Doctor from 3 meters to 1 because of remodeling inside. In regards to our director, he had a standard director's meeting, council liaison meeting, and staff meeting. Responded with the crew to Herring Run Road and Sussex Highway for a street light pole hit and an accident, and worked on the RP3 report for APA. The next few upcoming weeks, they're going to finish the primary loop service to residents at River Place, continue working in Bel Air multifamily, and continue changing the lights on Sussex Highway to LED. That's been a few of the highlights, but the report's been submitted in its entirety.
Okay, thank you very much. Finally, we have Public Works, Wastewater Treatment, Councilman King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report has been submitted in its entirety. With that being said, I'm just gonna hit some highlights from each department. I'll start with the Public Works Department. Work continues on the Route 13 sewer main, as well as repairs being done on the water service line on Hall Street. Team is currently working on leaf and limb pickup, and the cleanup process continues from our most recent storm. The team continues to focus their attention on weed growth throughout our city, and work continues on painting curbs. Excited to announce a new employee started in the Public Works Department on August 1st, and all is going well. The team partnered with the Electric Department to take down some large limb damage from the storm. I'll jump over to the wastewater treatment facility. The plant performance remains good. DNREC's annual compliance inspection took place on 8/3, and I'm proud to announce there were 0 issues. Replacement doors were installed on the control building, and here's just a few of the projects that are happening over the next few weeks. Work will continue at Virginia Commons. They will continue to paint curbs and debris cleanup from the storm. They will keep the plant up and running with 0 violations, perform maintenance as needed. And with that being said, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you all very much. Great week. 7-Eleven open. Go out and have a Slurpee and a hot dog. With that, I'll accept a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous. Thank you.